Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada, where we take a deep dive into mental health's many physiological and psychological aspects. This is the show for you if you're looking for motivation, inspiration, knowledge, and solutions, and that's what we're all about here at True Hope Canada. And True Hope Canada is a mind and body-based supplement company dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. For more information about us and our products, please visit truehopecanada.com. Today, I've got the absolute pleasure of welcoming Dr. Peter Glidden to the podcast. Now, Dr. Glidden is an American naturopathic doctor with over 35 years of experience in the industry. He's the author of 2 books, Everybody is Sick and I Know Why, and another called Attempt a Cure with Wholistic Medicine. When it comes to natural health, health freedom, and medical choice, he is a leading voice. Today on the podcast, we're going to be discussing chronic disease and health empowerment. Enjoy the show. Okay, hi Dr. Glidden. Welcome to True Hope Cast. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you and what is going well?
Well, Simon, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the platform. This is the best day of my life so far, so I am good to go.
Magical. Wonderful to hear that. Well, we're going to be talking about chronic disease and health empowerment today. But before we jump into that topic, would you mind just telling us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do, please?
I am my father's son. So I'm a licensed naturopathic physician. I'm currently, I'm in the U.S. I did my pre-med at the University of Massachusetts, 4-year Bachelor of Science pre-med. Graduated in 1987 from that. Attended Bastyr University of Naturopathic Medicine after that for 4 years. And 1,000 hours of clinical supervision in there somewhere. Graduated from Naturopathic Medical School in 1991, passed national boards, passed state boards, got licensed to practice naturopathic medicine in 1992, and I've been doing 25 hours of continuing education credit every year, which is what's required to maintain a license to practice naturopathic medicine in the U.S. I also think in Canada as well. Currently, there are only 4 medical schools which are fully accredited by the United States Department of Education that teach naturopathic medicine. And in the US and Canada, it's primary care. However, because we don't have a free medical market, naturopathic medicine is not covered. The services of a naturopathic physician are not covered by Health Canada. And my profession in the States is only currently licensed and regulated in 24 states. And in the state of Tennessee, believe it or not, it's a felony to practice naturopathic medicine. This brought to you by the medical monopoly, which has been in power in North America since 1915.
Interesting. Can you just let us know a little bit, what's the difference between a conventional medical doctor and a naturopathic doctor?
How much time do you have, Simon? So that the education in the basic sciences is exactly the same. As a matter of fact, we get more hours of anatomy and physiology than a medical doctor gets, right? So all of the basic science stuff is the same: anatomy and physiology and biochemistry and pathology of disease and histopathology and diagnostic techniques, and everything is the same. Where we're different, and remarkably so, is in our understanding of how to help the body fix itself in the application of our therapeutics. So medical doctors don't practice medicine. They practice allopathic medicine, right? I practice naturopathic medicine. There's many different types of medicine: chiropractic, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, etc., right? And your medical doctor may be the nicest person God ever created, but they don't practice medicine. Nobody does. Your medical doctor practices allopathic medicine. Now, there's a big difference between allopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine. Quite frankly, between allopathic medicine and every other type of medicine in the world, because allopaths are trained in a reductionistic, they're brought up inside of a reductionistic worldview. Reductionism is based upon Newtonian physics, and reductionism argues if it can't be measured, it does not exist. So, since nobody's dissected the soul out of the human body or seen it with an MRI or a CT or an X-ray, it doesn't exist. Heaven is a fiction. God is a fiction. Consciousness itself is a function of biochemistry. When the body dies, it's lights out, game over. There is no inherent intelligence in the body. The body does not have the ability to fix itself. And when disease occurs, it must be managed with materialistic pharmaceutical or surgical interventions. Naturopathic doctors and every other type of holistic medicine in the world argues the opposite, that God is real, the spirit is real, the body is inhabited by an intelligent spiritual force. The body knows how to fix itself. The body wants to fix itself. The body's trying to fix itself all of the time. And so it therefore becomes the sacred obligation of the holistic physician to develop and deliver therapeutics that support the body's ability to fix itself. So in a nutshell, the easiest way to understand the difference between an MD and me is that my profession develops and delivers therapeutics which are consistent with natural law, which attempt to cure the condition. So, I mean, you go to a medical doctor, they don't even know how to cure heartburn. They'll manage it. They can't cure blood pressure, they manage it. They can't cure arthritis, they manage it. They can't cure depression, they manage it. They can't cure infertility, they manage it. The only things really that they can cure are bacterial infections. And those are starting to fail because of antibiotic-resistant bacterial strains. But the point here is that your medical doctor may be the nicest person God ever created, but your medical doctor doesn't practice medicine, they practice allopathic medicine. And allopathic medicine teaches its practitioners to manage the disease. So they don't really practice healthcare. It should be against the law for a medical doctor to say that they practice healthcare because you're not getting healthier under their care. Medical doctors practice disease management. And there's a gigantic difference between healthcare and disease management. And don't get me wrong, Simon. I mean, I'm very outspoken about this. And because the scales have been shifted so much in the advantage of the MDs for over 100 years now, it seems like I'm bashing the medical doctors, but I'm not.
No.
I have a good friend who's a medical doctor. He's a very famous orthopedic surgeon. And, you know, sometimes you need the surgery. I mean, you know, every time I'm in the dentist chair, I thank God for lidocaine, right? It's like, oh my God. So it's not that the medical doctors are bad and evil and everybody else is great. It's that here's what the medical doctors are good at. Here's what they're bad at. Here's what the holistic doctors are good at. Here's what they're bad at. You choose.
Yeah. What's wild is this, there's never been this attempt at a clear integration of the two. Obviously, we need allopathic medicine. We need surgeries. We need some of these medications. But you just have to look at the state of the health of the Western world, whether that's in Canada or the US or the UK, where I'm from. People just are not healthy. And you would think in 2024, with all this medicine, with all these drugs, with all this research, that we would be at the top of our game biologically, where we just do not see that. And I've been lucky enough for 10 years, the last 10 years in my life, to be surrounded by holistic practitioners. And it's helped me understand the fact that these traditional medicines that are still used today by naturopathic doctors, by TCM practitioners, Ayurvedic practitioners, these are thousands of years old. That, you know, they predate allopathic medicine by centuries. And to call us unconventional or alternative or complementary, it doesn't quite do us just service, considering the historical relevance of, you know, natural medicine. If you
you're
just
100%, you're spot on, 100% correct, right? Saying that what we do is alternative is like saying, well, the only real dog is a German Shepherd and every other dog is an alternative dog, right? That's nonsense.
Right.
But that's how we have all been socialized over the last 100 years. And that's because of the medical monopoly that exists in the world since the early 1900s. I mean, in the US, the only thing that can legally treat a disease is a drug. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And that's a law here in the United States. And, you know, look, the reason that we have a chronic health epidemic, Alzheimer's through the roof, autism through the roof, obesity through the roof, just as many people get heart disease now as they did before statin drugs. Arthritis is on the rise. Everything, we're getting sicker and the life expectancy is getting shorter. And the reason that this is happening is not because of bad genes. It's not because of chemtrails, which are a very real thing, by the way. It's not because of 5G radiation. It's because your medical doctor The person, the medical profession that has been in charge of the development and the delivery of medicine for the last 100 years is the wrong dog for the hunt. It's the medical doctor's fault that we have a chronic disease epidemic because they do not know how the human body works, and their therapeutics, on their best day, their therapeutics can only manage the problem. So the older that you get, the sicker you get, the more dependent on the drugs you get, the weaker that you get, and then you die.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, in the US, before you die, you go bankrupt, and then you die because the leading cause of bankruptcy in the US is medical bills.
Yeah, I just, I think about how we have come to a point where the general public, even from a very young age, becomes, I'm going to use the word brainwashed here, to having a doctor as their only possible choice. That's what a lot of people believe. And, kids, they play doctor, and I'm sure 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, there would be a natural medicine man or woman within these communities that would, be providing tinctures and teas and poultices from a very young age, and kids would most certainly be a part of the whole process of picking plants and pressing plants and producing these medicines. And I just think now we don't have that within our culture, within our educational purposes for children, and we end up just we play doctor, and then we go to the doctor, and that's we feel sickness or medicine, or we need help. That's like our only choice, and I don't know if that's like a deliberate marketing that's happened.
It's definitely deliberate. It was definitely done on purpose. I can tell you the people who did it historically, and honest to God, I mean, I've been doing this for 36 years now, man. 36 years. I've treated thousands of people. Mm-hmm. Number one, you wouldn't believe the things I've seen people recover from, number one. And number two, well, you might believe the things, but most people wouldn't. And number two, as bad as people are starting to see conventional medicine is, because people are waking up from all of the lies and deceptions from COVID time, right? People are starting to snap out of it. I'm telling you, man, as bad as you think it is, it's 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, well, it's obviously has a significant, lengthy history, and I think I'm up in Canada, and our politics here are horrific, and especially when it comes around health and natural health, we have our own battles currently in regards to having access to natural health products, which Health Canada, our government entity, is doing their very best to just take them away and not give us even that option. So people's only option will be pharmaceutical medication. So we have these huge, big problems. And I just think back and look back at the history within the States of the lobbyists and the money and the power from pharmaceutical industry, like embedded in there, and how it's just kind of like the way it is at the moment. And you mentioned about like arthritis going up and dementia and Alzheimer's going up, all these diseases on the rise. But I tell you what else is also on the rise is the profits for these very large organizations who the bottom line for their CEOs and their big decision makers is to make money. It's not to create good health outcomes for Americans, So it's once you take a very simple look at that, then people have to start asking questions.
Well, inside of the current paradigm, and you're absolutely 100% spot on, inside of the current allopathic pharmaceutical centrist paradigm, a patient cured is a customer lost. So it's not in the best interests of the current medical system to cure anybody of anything, because if you did that, well, there go your profits. And I've said this, if I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times, that if by some genie in the bottle magic, we all woke up tomorrow and there was, in fact, medical freedom, that people in all countries had access to all types of medicine, everything was paid for by insurance, equal access to hospitals for all medical practitioners. If universities did research, half of their research on holistic therapeutics and half of their research on reductionistic therapeutics, if that were to happen, just as many naturopathic doctors and homeopathic doctors and Ayurvedic doctors and acupuncturists as MDs, and there was equal access to everybody. If that happened, in 1 year, the medical doctors who weren't surgeons or trauma care people would be out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a free market, people gravitate towards what works. The only reason that the medical doctors are everywhere all the time, the only reason that the medical doctors maintain first place, the only reason, because their therapeutics are horrible, is because they legislated themselves there and they maintained their position at the top with the unbelievable political persuasion and financial power of the pharmaceutical industry. It is a self-regulating, self-policing monopoly. It is literally killing us, and it needs to be excised, like a tumor.
Yeah, that overlap between private industry, politics, and health, it's never been a good combination. And yeah, we can see the fruits of it. So you said that you mentioned there's only 4 naturopathic schools in the US that are licensed or accredited. Is that what you mentioned before?
Yeah, and there's one in Canada. Canada. There's one in Seattle. There's one in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. There's one in Arizona, and there's one in Illinois.
Why so few? Why so few?
Because the pharmaceutical industry doesn't. Because of the medical monopoly. I mean, this from the Department of Redundancy Department. It all goes back to the monopoly. The medical doctors, the pharmaceutical industry, they do not want competition. In the United States, in 1912, Congress granted the American Medical Association exclusive control over who could and who couldn't practice medicine.
Wow.
It was a hostile takeover of the medical market by the MDs. And this was bankrolled by the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, who for like 1 out of maybe 3 times in their entire history, they pooled their funds together and their resources together towards a common objective. And the objective was that the absolute takeover of the medical market, and they did it. So the chiropractors kicked off the bus, the naturopaths kicked off the bus, the homeopaths kicked off the bus. Everybody who wasn't an MD kicked off the bus. It's illegal to practice medicine unless you're an MD.
Right.
I mean, it's good for the MDs. It's bad for everybody else. And we've been, clawing our way back into the mainstream ever since. But people are so socialized and brainwashed by 100 years of this medical monopoly. I mean, let's be honest, Simon. I mean, most people don't even know how to pronounce naturopathy, let alone know what the hell a naturopathic doctor is or what they can do.
That's right.
And that's because of the medical monopoly.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And I just want to talk about like the consumer for a second. So why do you think people are so fed up and disillusioned with conventional medicine?
Because it doesn't work. It doesn't cure anything. The only thing that it works for is trauma care. And that's interesting because in the last 100 years, all of the advances in medicine, which there have been many of, are in the surgical arena. Better surgical techniques, better surgical drugs, robotic surgery. The stuff that they can do with surgery now is unbelievable. But for everything else, all of the things everybody goes to the doctor for all the time, for all of that stuff, the allopathic method does not offer cures. So the longer that people are under the care of the medical doctor, the sicker that they get, the poorer that they get. And people are starting to wake up to it that, sickness has become the new normal now here, not only in the United States, but in the world. And I am telling you, man, it is not because you have a bad gene. It's not because the reason that people are sick and getting sicker is because the medical doctors are the wrong profession to go to for health care. They're the perfect profession to go through for trauma care, but they're the wrong dog for the hunt for health care. And if you continue to go to them, you must get sicker, you must get weaker, you must get more dependent on drugs, you must get more dependent on surgery, and then you die.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you see this as well. But here at True Hope Canada, we're a mind and body based supplement company, and our primary product, Empower Plus, is the most researched micronutrient on the planet. And so many people end up coming to us. I have the pleasure of running our website and running our marketing. So a lot of people who find us, they come through those channels and they speak with me. And so many of them have just been yeah, they've been disillusioned for sometimes decades by petrochemical medicine, and they're sick, they're fed up, and unfortunately they've been on multiple medications, none of them of which worked. They've had to go on other medications to deal with the side effects of the original medications, and it ends up taking a lot of years, a lot of experience, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma before they start looking for alternative routes. And I'm just lucky and blessed that I work for a company that is there offering this wild, incredible solution that supports so many different ailments, from anxiety and depression to bipolar and schizophrenia, all these disorders that, as you said, we've spoken before, like the conventional medicine doesn't have a cure for any of these. And I wanted to ask you, would you mind explaining to people who might not understand this yet, that why it's not in the benefit of a drug company? You say that we've seen these amazing advances in surgical operations and equipments and techniques and things, but when it comes to like pharmaceutical drugs, I just imagine the amount of money that's been put towards like finding a cure for cancer that's been it's been propagated significantly over 50 years. Why would it not be in the best interest for a drug company to find something that that cures the disease that it's attempting to do?
Because then the patient would no longer need to buy the product. So that's why it's 100% money driven. It's a profit. It's a financial situation. It's not a humanitarian situation. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't care about making people healthy. The pharmaceutical industry cares about selling drugs. And if you have a drug that cures asthma, or if you had then the patient would need to take it and the asthma would be gone, they wouldn't need to take the drug anymore. But if you have a drug that manages asthma, well, the patient needs to take it all the time. So that's why. It ultimately comes down to simple dollars and cents, simple money. And this is a big come to Jesus aha moment for a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with making money, but when it comes to medicine, and quite frankly, there ought to be a law. Oh, and there is a law. The law says in the United States and Canada and the European Union, thanks to Codex Alimentarius, that the only thing that can legally treat a disease is a drug. Which is why, by the way, if you go to the health food store, it doesn't say arthritis RX. It says bone and joint support.
Yeah.
It doesn't say schizophrenia help. It says, cognition support or whatever, right? Yeah. Because you cannot relate the sale of a nutritional supplement in the U.S. to the mitigation or treatment of a disease. That's illegal.
Yeah, we have we do a lot of work with the the Natural Health Products Protection Association, and their president is a constitutional lawyer called Sean Buckley, and he very frequently uses the example here in Canada that if he was to offer you water for your dehydration, he's just turned water into a drug to treat a disease. Therefore, he's broken several laws, and it's really sad, but and quite laughable at the same time.
And it's a tragedy of biblical proportions. And you don't know much about my therapeutics or what I do, but I'm a gigantic fan of medical nutrition. I've seen medical nutrition fix things that are unbelievable. And see, this is one of the biggest disconnects that exist in the world. And this, again, brought to you by the medical monopoly. This from the Department of Redundancy Department. I'm tired to beat this horse over and over again, but we need to do it because people are not aware of it. So here's the fundamental naturopathic reality. The human body is inhabited by an intelligent spiritual force. I don't care what you call it. It's running the show. It's intelligent. The body is so smart, it grew itself all by itself from one cell into us. And right now, our bodies are literally, not figuratively, literally managing billions of biochemical processes, all of which are completely outside of our conscious control. Well, what's running that show? The indwelling spirit. Call it whatever you will. It's not a religious conversation. It's a spiritual conversation. The body knows how to fix itself. The body wants to fix itself. The body's trying to fix itself, but it needs help. We need to drink water. We need to eat food. We need to put warm clothes on when we go outside. We need to breathe air. We don't do these things, the body's going to die. Well, guess what? There's other things that we need to do in order to support the body's built-in ability to fix itself. And giving the body the proper nutrition is fundamentally, soundly important. If you do not do that correctly, it's only a matter of time until something breaks. And then the person's in trouble. So they've got a symptom, they've got a diagnosis, they've got something. They have no idea what caused it. And they go to a medical doctor who has no idea what caused it. And then the medical doctor throws a drug at it to manage the symptom, not to cure the condition. And now they're in a world of hurt. Whereas had they just done the medical nutrition intervention, 9 times out of 10, it goes away. Why? Because the body wants to fix it. But the body needs raw materials in order to fix it. And these raw materials are no longer in our food. And we're screwed, glued, and tattooed because of it.
Yeah, I think that the point you bring up about the spiritual aspect of health is huge. And I think we have significantly severed that that part of our understanding to us. I think that we had this sixth sense that would connect us with nature, with the cosmos, with all of these things around us. And I think that we have lost that, and people are slowly tiptoeing back to understanding that they need something bigger than what they've got, whether that's a connection to a religion, a church, a community, whatever that may be. Many different industries have severed that. Medicine, for sure. Telecommunications of cell phones has severed the spiritual connection that we have with other human beings. And we are seeing significant ramifications of that with our bodies. And
100%.
I completely agree with you. We have this innate universal intelligence within our bodies that does absolutely remarkable things. Quick story that kind of blew my mind 10 years ago when I really got into natural health. My father had he drank a lot in his 20s and 30s, and his liver was completely pickled by the time he was 50, and he needed a new liver, and he was on the transplant list for a couple of years. In the UK, it's usually 6 months before you could get a new one, but it'd been 2 years. And eventually my parents took the idea of, they watched a documentary and they saw a live organ transplant. And my mother ended up in this 15-hour operation where my mother gave 70% of her liver to my dad. And when I even heard that this was even a possibility, and then I spoke with the surgeons who did it and then saw that it worked, it just absolutely blew my mind that that they could actually do that. And that's a really incredible example of a surgical medical allopathic procedure that, saved both of my parents' life. It was saved my dad's life. But the fact that the body had the ability to work with that foreign organ and regenerate for my mum, so she's absolutely fine and healthy now, is just like, it absolutely blew my mind and opened me up to the idea that there is so much more that I do not see, think, feel, or touch that is controlling everything. And it goes from like the smallest cell to the biggest stars,
Well, you're 100% on, spot on again. And here's a fun fact to know and tell. The liver is the only organ in the human body that can, in fact, regenerate itself. You can remove, I think, up to 70, 72, 75% of it. It'll grow back. It's what happened to your mother.
Yeah.
That's how she was able to do that. So there are biochemical processes in the human body which support and promote hepatoneogenesis, which is fancy schmancy doctor talk for the regeneration of liver cells. It is entirely possible, had your father seen me or somebody like me, that we would have been to regenerate his liver without the need for surgery. I've seen it happen.
I completely agree with you.
Right? But I mean, it's a point that's well taken that sometimes you need the surgery. I mean, right? This is not a diatribe against all things medicine. This is, look, it's not the gun, it's how you use it. It's not the drug, it's how you use it. This is the situation that we're up against here. But inside of a medical monopoly, right, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So even if you don't, in point of fact, need surgery, the surgeon isn't going to know that. That orthopedic doctor, who's a good friend of mine, his name is Dave Janda, and he's a very famous guy in his own world. Celebrities would all over the world would come to see him because he was so good at what he did. He had really bad arthritis in his neck, and he was taking pain meds and more pain meds and anti-inflammatories, and he's getting ready to have surgery. He found me. I told him what to do. He did it, and I think it was within 4 to 6 weeks, his arthritis is completely gone. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He didn't know what he didn't know, but he was open-minded enough to say, well, okay, you're a licensed physician. You've got 36 years of clinical experience in a discipline that I have no experience with. Okay, what do I have to lose? Let's see what happens. And you're absolutely right about something else that you said earlier, that the vast majority of people who come to see me or any of my colleagues, we're not their first choice, we're their last choice. People come to see us after they've exhausted everything else. So let's go see the crazy naturopath. What do we have to lose? And more often than not, we'll fix them.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful when people do find a naturopath, or they find even just like yoga or meditation, or they stop spending so much time indoors, and they, they use light medicine, to start helping them. It's all wonderful. It's all amazing. And you talk a lot on your website and on some of your podcasts that you don't want patients, you want students. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, thank you for saying that. That's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it?
It sure is.
Right. I mean, the root, if you look up the word doctor in Latin, it means teacher. That's number one. Number two is, this was a come to Jesus moment for me. This was an aha moment for me in my professional career. Very humbling. I've had a number of them. This was one of them. So I'm working with another naturopathic doctor who was in charge of a $25 million research project that happened over the course of 10 years. He did 10,000 autopsies, 1 million histopathologies. It was a remarkable body of work, which now is in the Smithsonian Institution in the United States. It's a national treasure. It basically rewrote our understanding of the relationship between nutrients and health. It was a fantastic body of work. And I mentored with this guy for 12 years. And I'm in a room in Kankakee, Illinois, which is a middle-class suburb, with about 80 other people in the room, plus me and my mentor. And we were the only people with more than a high school education in the entire room. And these people had been following a medical nutrition course of treatment for a long time. And one guy would get up, he'd raise his hand, he had a testimony. Another guy would get up, he'd raise his hand, he had a testimony. Another guy would get up, he'd raise his hand, he had a testimony. All these people had remarkable recoveries of their health, not with a private appointment with a doctor, but with good old-fashioned medical nutrition, right? So it was like, oh my God. I had no idea, number one, that this was possible, because I wasn't taught anything like this in medical school. But here was the proof, and more proof, and more proof, and more proof, and more proof. So the humbling moment here was that most people suffering with a chronic disease, they don't need a private appointment. Most people just need to be told, look, you should stop eating these foods because they're going to hurt you. You should start eating these foods because they're going to help you, and you should take these nutrients into your body on a regular basis. And it's also a good idea every once in a while to do a very good detoxification program to get all the crap that's in your body out of the body. And it's also a good idea once or twice a year to do a kill the parasite program, because that stuff is in the body and it's going to hurt you. People just need to be told what to do. But because of the medical monopoly, ain't none of that going to happen here, because we don't want people to be empowered. We don't want people to get healthy. We don't want people to know what to do. We want sick people.
Yeah. And we've taken a lot of the responsibility, or the personal responsibility you have to be healthy, away with this medical model of going to the doctor, getting a prescription, filling it, taking that, and that deals with your problem, right? Rather than everybody's got the ability and responsibility and choice to eat certain foods and avoid certain other foods, to move their body, to get outside, to practice some sort of maybe spiritual, have a spiritual practice within their life. Like, we all have this like personal responsibility, and it does take time, it does take work and effort, and it's going to take the change in neural pathways. It's going to have to change habits. It's not an easy thing to do for some people, but it is available, it is there. And a lot of these things that we're talking about are quite simple, fundamental things that we can provide the body to do what it does best, which is to make us feel well, heal us, and do all these wonderful things. And we see here at True Hope people who have been chronically nutrient deficient for decades, and then they take a combination of a couple of our products, and because they're absorbed so well, regardless of your gut integrity, that within days people can start feeling significant effects, because their body has not had quality nutrition get into their brain or into their body for years. And
for their entire life, since the moment of conception, their entire life, they've been walking around planet Earth in an undernutrified body. And people just think that that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's normal to have headaches. They think it's normal to have really bad menstrual cramps. They think it's normal to have insomnia.
Yeah.
I think it's normal to have heartburn. It's not. These things, the only reason that you have these things is because your medical doctor has no idea what to do to fix it. And you've been, quite frankly, lied to your entire life about what to do to fix it. And honest to God, Simon, if people are smart enough to pass the driver's license test, they're smart enough to learn what to do to help their body to fix itself. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult. You just need to go to the right source to have somebody line it up for you.
Yeah, and the source is hugely important. I think that we have an obligation to our children to help educate them from a young age about what nutrition is, what are micronutrients, what are macronutrients, what does that mean for the body. And we could talk again like all day about like food pyramids and food plates, and the influence within government of like big agriculture and big sugar and all of these other industries that influence politics, that influences and governance people. That's another podcast series that you and I can talk about. But the fact of the matter is that we have been poorly misguided. And I don't know whether like politicians or people within government have known that, but like, money talks, and we all know about like the influence of money and power and ego within politics. And unfortunately, it's the people who are governed that will, be on the back end of that, unfortunately. So yeah, it's we have a lot of responsibility, me as a parent, having influence within the schools and my kids as well. But I like to think that we are going in the right direction somewhat. I want to ask you about, because it's October 3rd right now, there's a massive election in your country, which will have impact around the world. And I wanted to get your opinion on Make America Healthy Again with Robert Kennedy Jr.'s. I've never seen a politician. I've lived in the UK, Canada, the States, and Sweden, and I've never seen a politician come out talking about the horrific nature of health and the influence of government, the influence of industry on the health of individuals. Like, I've never seen it before. And I just wondered what your opinion is on it.
Well, thank you for asking. That's an excellent question. By the way, I've been on 1 million podcasts, man. Yeah. I mean, maybe not 1 million, but I've been
a lot.
I've been on a lot. And you're asking really, really, really good questions. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's rare in this industry. So hats off to you.
Thanks.
Okay, good. So, all right. So Bobby Kennedy, let's make America healthy again. So he has some good ideas. He needs to rein in the Food and Drug Administration, need to make, those people accountable, need to have penalties for drug manufacturers that develop products that hurt people, have to have penalties for drug manufacturers that mislead people through, false advertising, and all of which, by the way, is legal in the US to do now. Mm-hmm. You need to clean up, the environment. That's a great idea. Need to take processed foods out of school lunches. That's a great idea. But all of these things are not going to fix the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is the system itself. We do not have medical freedom. We do not have a free medical market. And I don't mean free like nobody has to pay for it. I mean freedom of choice in medicine. We do not have it. It is the current medical system right now, overseen in a monopolistic sense by the MDs, the American Medical Association, and the pharmaceutical industry. You don't have access to homeopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, botanical medicine, hands-on healing. We don't have access to any of that. It's MD-directed, pharmaceutical centrist, reductionistic medicine every day, every way, all the time. Shut up and take your medicine. Damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead. It is the system itself that's the problem. I mean, the chronic disease epidemic happened while the medical doctors were in exclusive control of everything. It happened on their watch.
Yeah.
It's not because they're bad, evil, sadistic people. It's because the philosophy of medicine that they're trained in is insufficient to the cause, but they will never admit that they're wrong. So what needs to happen is the system itself needs to change. The Food and Drug Administration needs to be eliminated, or their charter needs to be rewritten. Well, by the way, the Food and Drug Administration is doing an excellent job, because their charter, when they were founded, was to protect the pharmaceutical industry, because that was considered a national security issue, right? And they're doing a wonderful job at that, because everybody who comes up with a non-drug treatment is thrown in jail,
right?
For goodness sakes. So it is the system itself that needs to change. And it's ironic because there was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Dr. Benjamin Rush. Here's what he said in the 1700s, and I'm paraphrasing. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize itself into a dictatorship. To restrict the art of healing to one class of people and deny equal privileges to others will constitute the Bastille of medical science. All such laws are un-American and despotic, and that is exactly what's happened. That is why we have a chronic health disease epidemic. It's not because we don't have cures. My profession has been helping people to recover their health for hundreds of years. The homeopaths for hundreds of years. The Ayurvedic doctors for hundreds of years. The cures are available. They're just not legalized.
All right.
And this is the problem. It's the whole freaking system needs to change. I don't think Bobby Kennedy has the chops to do that.
Yeah, I think he knows that that tearing down the system is the answer. But I think that like it's a step-by-step process for sure. And I'm not sure what it's going to take. But we have the same problems in Canada in regards to Health Canada. They you won't see anything within their charter or their mission that they are charged with creating good health outcomes for Canadians. Like, it's just not there. They are there to protect international property rights and to basically
isn't it nuts?
It's insane. People won't believe you. That's like the big lie that Sean Buckley, that lawyer I was talking to you about earlier, like he says that on podcasts all over the world, and people just can't believe that. Like, Health Canada especially, this great nation of taking care of people and politeness, that would be the agenda of like a government agency. But when you don't have to look far when you realize that 2/3 of their income are coming from the pharmaceutical industry, and they refer to them as clients. Like, it's not a difficult thing to comprehend. But we slowly, I hope, just like with podcasts like these, having conversations with you and making these connections, that slowly we can start helping people. We'll start changing minds and giving people the idea of having different ideas, and when it comes to their health, that they make alternative choices. But we obviously have to stand firm and make sure that those choices are available, because the powers that be obviously trying to make it a one-way street for people when it comes to health and medicine.
Yeah, well, the truth has a ring to it, right? And the only reason that my profession continues to exist inside of such a hostile political climate is that more often than not, it works.
Yeah.
And why does it work? Because it's based on natural law, which is inviolate, right? This is an interesting thing to talk about. right? Because if you look at the halls of conventional medicine, MD-directed allopathic medicine, are littered with the discarded remains of treatments which were standard of care in their day. And if you didn't practice this, you were a quack and you were kicked off the bus of medicine, like bloodletting, high doses of calomel, purging of the human body, right? Those were standard of care back in their day. The halls of conventional medicine are littered with those discarded remains because conventional medicine is anything but scientific. Their therapeutics are not based on natural law. Their therapeutics are based on reality by consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Holistic medicine is the opposite. We don't ever discard anything in naturopathic medicine. We add new things to it because we learn new things. That's why it's called the practice of medicine. You learn new things. Well, that's great. Right now, there's 90 essential nutrients. Maybe tomorrow we'll discover one more and there's 91 essential nutrients, whatever. But my point is that holistic therapeutics, naturopathic therapeutics, homeopathic therapeutics are based on natural law. It's not natural belief. It's natural law, which exists whether you believe in it or not and which never changes. So when you have your fingers on the pulse of natural law, your therapeutics are effective.
Mm-hmm.
And as time goes by, you add new things to it. But you never discard anything because you have built your medicine on a really solid foundation of natural therapeutics. It's like, basing a therapeutic on the laws of gravity. It's like, it's not going to ever change. So here we are.
Yeah, you said it perfectly at the beginning of the show, that the reductionist view, that reductionist value of allopathic medicine will never have the ability, the full broad spectrum scope of a holistic view at looking at everything that makes up somebody and their health and their nutrition. It's not even comparable. But I want to just finish up by just asking you to let us know where people can connect with you and people can learn more about what you do, please.
Well, all you need to do is just close your eyes and concentrate really hard. And my website will pop up into your third eye.
Magic. Love it. If people can't get into that meditative state, what's an alternative route?
Well, thank you for that. I will tell you, I do want to say one more thing that to kind of, put parentheses on this and end it.
Please.
Okay. I appreciate your, you're letting me kind of grandstand here. I really do appreciate it. So your medical doctor may be the nicest person that God ever created, but your medical doctor doesn't practice medicine. They practice allopathic medicine, which is reductionistic in its philosophical underpinnings. And your medical doctor may be a very religious person in their private life, but when they go to work, they're an atheist. Because allopathic medicine does not believe in the spirit. It does not believe in the soul. It does not believe in the vital force. It does not believe in any of that. As a matter of fact, your medical doctor believes that consciousness itself is a function of biochemistry. And when the body dies, everything dies. It's lights out, game over. There's no life after death. There's no spirit. There's nothing. It's all a fiction. This is what the medical doctor believes, and they're wrong. And because they believe this, it is impossible for them to figure out what to do to help the body to heal itself, because the fundamental driver of healing in the human body is the indwelling spirit. That's what's running the show. And if you don't believe in that, you've thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and you will never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, ever, never, 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 never be able to help anybody heal. Help anybody recover their health. You just be able to manage things, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. And that's what we've all gotten used to because of the medical monopoly. And it's a crying freaking shame. Simon will tell you the remarkable things he's seen people recover from. I'll tell you the remarkable things I've seen people recover from. We do not have the answer to all human ailments. We do not, but we have a very sophisticated, science-based, clinically verified approach, which is built upon the foundation of natural law, developed through the inductive scientific method. It's fantastic. but you don't know anything about it because of the medical monopoly, and you're suffering because of it. So if you're watching this podcast, God bless you. But now you need to take action. You need to do something, because your body's ability to fix itself is 1,000 times greater than anybody has led you to believe. And regretfully, because of the political climate, you need to source these answers out yourself, because they're not going to fall out of the sky. And if you're waiting for big government to help you figure this out, good luck. This information exists right now. So source it out, check it out, educate yourself, and apply it. Because honest to God, you simply do not know what you're missing. My website, Leave Big Pharma Behind. Ooh, that's got a good ring to it.
Sure does.
LeaveBigPharmaBehind.com. Just go there. I had some books for sale on Amazon. Amazon banned them. So
Of course they did.
You can't go there to find me anymore. I got kicked off of
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
No, it's the other one. TikTok. I got kicked off of TikTok a month ago. They still won't tell me why. Just as well. I don't really like TikTok anyway. It's a China-based company. But that's another question. But so LeaveBigPharmaBehind.com is the place to go to find all things Dr. Glidden. And I hope that you do, because knowledge really is power. And it's not difficult. The stuff that you need to learn to help your body fix itself, it's not difficult. You just need someone to tell you what to do.
Beautiful, Dr. Glidden. Thank you so much for your time today. Wonderful words at the end there. And I can't wait to get this podcast out to share with people. I think people are going to be motivated and inspired by what we've discussed today. We've had a few laughs as well, which is always helpful. But once again, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Simon. I appreciate the platform.
Awesome. Well, that's it for this episode of True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. We'll be back with you next week. I will leave links in the description, in the show notes, so you can connect with Dr. Glidden and learn more about his work. He's got some great videos on his website and lots of other great resources as well. But that is it for this week. We'll see you soon.